All right, we've got a couple of minutes and then we're going to get started. I'm going to wait to 12 o'clock to start. All right, we got about 1 minute and then we'll get started. All right, looks like we have a couple more participants joining us. I'll let everybody find their way in. All right, so that I can keep everybody on time and keep us on time today, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am on this webinar by myself, so if you have questions, please enter them throughout the time that I'm talking and presenting, but I'm going to stick with the presentation for the first half of our time together and then answer specific questions that may not have been answered in the presentation at the end, just to keep us on time and to keep us moving forward. So please, write down those questions. Hopefully I'll answer them as I speak with you, but in case I don't, I'll have those questions to refer to at the end of our conversation. I have framed this conversation so it's both showing you about the Student Professional Development Center and the services that we offer students, but also some of the advice that we give students who are going through the job search process. I think that's important for you as family members, parents, and stakeholders to see what advice we're giving students on how to navigate the job search process. So my name is Brooke Buffington. I'm the Assistant Vice President of the Student Professional Development Center, and this is my 10th year at Elon University. We're going to talk about navigating the job search and graduate school application process for seniors specifically, but a lot of this information would be relevant to junior students as well that are looking for internships. And it's just good information overall to learn if you aren't the parent or family member of a senior. So hopefully it's still relevant to you. Quick overview of the Student Professional Development Center. If the SPDC is what I might call it during the presentation, the acronym that we use on campus. If that's a new term for you or unfamiliar, we are the Career Services Office on campus, and that actually encompasses a great deal. And we're going to talk about what all our office does. Not everything, because that would be a presentation unto itself, but the kind of the high points of what we do. Students are not mandated to work with our office, but we do everything we can, as you can see on that third bullet point, to market our services widely. We host over 500 different types of career programs each academic year. Those range from large career fairs to boutique career fairs to campus classroom workshops, information sessions, panels of alumni. We really try to host a wide variety of programs so that we meet students where they're at, both developmentally and physically. And that goes to our hub and spoke model. We do have our main office here in the Mosley Center. That's where I'm sitting today. That is right across from the help desk. If you've been in the Mosley Center recently, it's a wavy glass wall, but we have an office, a satellite office in the School of Communications in McEwen, and a satellite office in the Love School of Business called the Porter Center. So if you hear your students say, I went to the Porter Center, that's our satellite office in the School of Business. We have a career advisor who sits in the Global Education Building, and we have a career advisor who sits in the Corey for athletics. So we really are spread out across campus, making sure that we're meeting students where they're at. So they really can't miss us because we want to make sure that they come in and utilize our services. And we do have a robust team of career advisors who work with students. So I came in as a career advisor many years ago, student facing, and over half of our team is student facing. We have a team of around 25 professionals. And to give you a comparison, I came from a large public institution that served over 20,000 students, and we had a team of 25 career professionals at that school. So we're a really large team, which allows us to have that hub and spoke model and to work across campus to serve student and alumni needs. So what does that look like kind of with some rankings here? You'll see we're top 20 in career services in 2025, and we've been in that top 20 for over 10 years now. So really highly regarded for the work that we're doing. And this ranking is given to us by our students and alumni. So it shows us that we're meeting their needs if they're coming in to utilize our services. And we're number 9 in internships in the US News and World Report, because internships are very much a part of our culture. Your student may or may not have engaged in an internship. It's mandatory for some of our majors, highly encouraged in other majors, but we really see a strong number of students complete an internship, a minimum of 1 internship prior to graduation. But really, we're here today to talk about the job search. It is an ever-changing and evolving kind of complex search process. I came into career in 2008, which was, if you talk about a bad market, it was a really difficult market to be in career and a difficult market to graduate into in 2008. We're not in that market right now. We are in a market that's a bit tumultuous. There's a lot going on and a lot of uncertainty. So that does impact the job search process. So we're going to talk about what kind of strategies students can use to navigate that. So I'm going to use some terminology that we would like for our students to think through as they navigate the job search process. If a student first comes into our office as a senior, maybe they have worked with us before, or maybe they haven't worked with us before, and they say, I need to start the job search process. I'm pretty lost on how to do that. We'll have an initial conversation with them about some of these points right here. What do you value? Kind of what are you looking for in a company or organization? What's important to you? A lot of times our students are geographically, they have strong geographic ideas of where they want to be. So that may be one of their drivers. Essentially, we'll have this conversation with them about what type of work environment they're looking to go into. Are they thinking big organization, small organization? And a lot of times they haven't thought through these things yet. So having this initial conversation helps us to get a foundation and helps the students to build a foundation of what types of opportunities they want to look for, because they've never done this before, especially in the job search. They maybe have done it for an internship search, but they haven't gone through the job search process, or are likely not to have gone through the job search process. So building that foundation is really important so that we understand what their goals are and what might align with those goals, and so that they understand what their goals are. So they're not taking what I call the scattershot method, where they're just applying to a lot of things all at once and expecting something to come of it. We like a strategy over that scattershot method, because strategy tends to be much more productive use of their time and just much more productive outcomes. So what does strategy look like? First, I want students to recognize the power skills that they've developed. The career services professionals are guided by an association called the National Association of Colleges and Employers. NACE is what we call it. And NACE has identified some common skills and top skills that employers are looking for in new graduates. And those are the skills that they've really developed, not only in their major, but also through their liberal arts curriculum. And we hear this time and time again from our employers. Our students have strong communication and writing skills. They have the ability to critically think and problem solve. They've worked in teams in a lot of their classes and taken on projects in a lot of their classes, which helps with their problem solving. And they hopefully have had that internship or some type of undergraduate research experience that has allowed them to build their time management skills or their professionalism, or both. So we want students to recognize these skills that are threaded throughout their time at Elon, because oftentimes they think that these are commonplace and that every new graduate has them, and that's not always the case. But at Elon, it truly is integrated, the building of these skills throughout their experience, and we want to help them to recognize that and start to be able to articulate that well to a future graduate school or a future job provider. Like, I talked a little bit about strategy. What does strategy look like in a job search? And I always say, I don't love the scattershot method where they just apply to like hundreds of jobs and then they come in frustrated because none of them have turned out to be successful, or they're just not securing the interviews that they would like. First, we recognize the search process takes time. It's a part-time job to find a full-time job, right? It takes time, it takes research. It's not just to apply, but to prepare your application materials and to prepare for interviews that you receive after applying. And as you know, as anybody who's gone through the job search process, it doesn't always happen smoothly, right? There's a lot of different ways that the job search process happens. And that's even more prevalent now, where it used to be you applied to a job, had one phone interview and maybe a office visit or an office interview. Now you apply to a job, you might get a survey that asks you to fill out some additional skills that you have. You may take an assessment, you might attend an information session, then you might do a pre-recorded interview, which is one where you're not even talking to a person, but you're pre-recording yourself as I'm talking with you all today about what your skills are and your interest in that organization. Once you get past the pre-recorded interview, then you might have that Zoom interview where you're now talking face to face, but through a screen. Whereas before, students just needed to be good on the phone and in person. Now they need to be broadcasters and be able to speak to who they are while talking into a computer screen both live and pre-recorded. So the search process does take time, and students need to recognize that and give the time that it needs to be successful. And so understanding when we meet with a student, kind of how can we carve this into your schedule? What's realistic? Can you apply to 5 jobs a week, or is it 1 job a week that you could put a really good application together? And so helping the student to set realistic goals so they don't feel overwhelmed and that they're able to be successful in the search. We really encourage a tracking document or some type of system for the student to track where they're applying, why they're applying, and what they've applied for, because everybody's on a different timeline. One organization might be moving really quickly through their job interview, and another application they may not hear for a month, and then all of a sudden they have an interview that pops up and they don't even remember what they applied for. So that tracking system, and we can even give students an example of a document and a tracking system. We often will pass that along to students. Everything's a little bit different for each student. Some are using Excel really exceptionally, and others like other tools that can support them, like Google Sheets or a tool or an app on their phone. It really just depends on the student what their documenting and tracking process needs to look like. But we work with the student to understand what's going to meet their needs, and they need to devote that time each week to their search. And then we can determine with them what is reasonable given their course load and given the other obligations that they have on campus. So I always say a quality application. I'd rather see 2 quality applications over 10 quantity applications, because those 2 quality applications are going to get you a lot further, especially if they align with those values that we talked about earlier and those career goals that we talked about earlier. Application materials. You all know this if you've applied to a job. If you are hiring managers yourselves and you hire for your own organizations and departments, but application materials are a reflection of future work, right? They show me the type of work that you are going to do as a part of my team. And if you haven't put the time and effort into your application materials, I worry that you're not going to put the time and effort into the job. And so we really try to drive that home to students that we want you to put the time and effort into the resume, cover letter. Make sure your LinkedIn is up to date if you're an active job search, if you're in an active job search, and to grow your network. And the best time to grow your network is as a student, because our alumni are really receptive to hearing from students. Our employers are really receptive to hearing from students, and really just professionals as a whole, because they often remember when they were students and they're excited to be able to give back. I worked with a student, I think it was 2 years ago, who was just built their LinkedIn and was really intimidated by the process of reaching out to other professionals on LinkedIn. So together in one of our sessions, we worked on one outreach to one kind of blind, you would call it, networking contact, right? Just to help them get comfortable and familiar with the process. And they heard back back from that blind networking contact. So the next time the student came in, they'd reached out to 10 more people because they gained confidence in the tool. They'd gained confidence in their ability to reach out to those contacts and confidence in knowing kind of what those next steps were if the contact connected. So I think it's really great when we can help maybe a student through the process one time and they gain that confidence to say, okay, it's not as intimidating as I thought. People are receptive to hearing from me. And now I know how to do this in the future. Because what we want is to teach a student how to navigate the job search process, not just this time, but to gain confidence in being able to navigate the job search process 5 years after graduation, 10 years after graduation, 15 years after graduation, because it's a skill they're going to use for a lifetime. So learning how to customize that resume, learning how to customize that cover letter and reach out through LinkedIn to grow your network is a life skill. It's not just a skill you're going to use once at Elon, but it's a skill that you're going to use time and time again. And it's really neat to see once they've kind of grasped all these skills and how quickly they're able to utilize their confidence in their skill set to benefit their job search. So with the application materials, I say to students, I want every application to be an application plus. So I want every application to be a great cover letter, a great resume, and but also plus at least one networking contact. You've reached out to at least one person on LinkedIn who's an alumni at the organization. You've reached out to one recruiter that you know is hiring for the position. Students oftentimes think that employers don't want to hire them. As a former employer who worked to hire a leadership development program for a large conglomerate, I explained to students that I want great applicants. My job is to fill great jobs with great people, right? So I want you to be a fantastic applicant. It's in my favor that the right applicants come through. So what we want is for you to be that best applicant, the one that takes that extra step to reach out to me as a recruiter, the one that takes the extra step to reach out to me as an alum at the company and says, I really want to work for your organization. Can you tell me more about the work that you've been doing with that organization? And that can make all the difference in the world. So that's that application plus at least one outreach to an alum or to an appropriate party at that organization, showing your interest and just being that kind of next level candidate beyond just the application pool that everybody else is in. So just to give you an idea of what it looks like on the other side of our work, we have the team of career advisors that are working with our students every day, helping them answer some of the questions that you'll probably have today and give them some of the advice that I'm talking about today is, let's create a tracking document for your job search. What's a reasonable number of jobs that you can apply for a week? And what do those applications need to look like? How are your application materials looking? And do you know how to customize them to a job description in a way that doesn't take up too much time, but can really be the difference maker in your application? So we have that team. And on the other side, we have a team of individuals that are working with our employers. So they are actively going into our top markets. I was just up in New York last week meeting with employers. It was quite cold and even snowy a couple of days. But I was I guess it was flurries. It wasn't snowy like it was here in North Carolina. But meeting with employers and talking about the jobs that they have available and hearing about what they're looking for in applicants. So there's the top markets that you'll see there, growing markets. And we're really expanding beyond those growing markets. We're seeing markets throughout the United States. And our corporate and employer relations team doesn't just wait for calls to come in from employers who want to hire our students. We go out into those markets and have conversations with employers to make sure we're putting great students in front of them and that they're excited about receiving Elon candidates and Elon applications. So what do those visits look like? It's really great. Like I said, I was in New York just last week with one of our earlier kind of newer professionals. And this was her first visit to employers. And so I went along to kind of coach and model the types of conversations that we have with employers. And what we learned when we left the employer, she was just shocked and surprised, because when you take the time to visit an organization's office, to get to know the individual who's doing the hiring, you get a lot of really good kind of quote unquote insider information into what they're looking for in candidates, right? So they can say, here's what I look for on a resume. here's what I want to see the student emphasize in their cover letter. The cover letter means everything to me, or it doesn't mean anything to me. So a student doesn't need to pay attention to it. It's different for every employer, right? What motivates them to interview a candidate or not interview a candidate. So the more that we can find out that information, we can bring that information back to campus. We write a report that then is shared with our career advising team so that they can then make sure to inform students who are applying to those opportunities about how to tailor their application materials or how that employer wants to see that application come in. We also allows us to do really nice referrals for employers that are open to referrals to say, when we saw you up in New York, you said you were looking for students that had experience in X, Y, and Z. We've run across a handful of those students who are actively seeking opportunities with your organization and wanted to give you their names and send along their resumes so that we can do that extra outreach when appropriate to an employer who's open to that outreach. So we're really looking to share the information that we're learning from our employers with our career advising team, with our students, with our faculty, and across campus. So then they know what trends are happening in industry and what our students need to be doing to make themselves marketable for what those future opportunities look like. So it's a lot of great work, and not every school has a team that travels to the locations, and being able to sit down with the employers and have conversations face to face, I do think makes a huge difference in their relationships with us and their interest in our students. So what does the search process look like? We've got these great students who've built fantastic application materials. They've kind of created that foundation of what they're looking for and why. And so they've created a tracking document. Maybe they've highlighted 10 to 20 organizations or opportunities on that tracking document that they're like, these are the organizations that I want to focus on, that I want to make sure that I'm making myself as marketable as possible to. How do we find those job postings? So one, as I mentioned before, our corporate and employer relations teams is finding jobs, internships. They're meeting with those employers and they're bringing those opportunities back to campus. And that's where it's going to be on the Elon Job Network. You'll see there EJN. And in a minute, I'll show you how many jobs and opportunities we posted on EJN just last year. We're currently still in the academic year for this year, so I can look back at what was posted, but I know we're tracking for really high numbers of postings there this year. A lot of those postings are coming to us from alumni. They're coming to us from those corporate and employer relations conversations. So they're coming to us directly from people who are looking to hire our students and are interested in Elon. LinkedIn is a great place, obviously, to see a lot of job postings. What I recommend for students to do is that they see a great job posting on LinkedIn they're really excited about, go to the company website and apply for it there. Because I'd like to see you apply directly on the company website, because then I know it's going to the right person. If it doesn't have a company website or a posting external of LinkedIn, then LinkedIn still is your best source. All different types of other resources, career fairs, alumni and faculty are sending us jobs and internships every day. We receive postings and opportunities saying, I'm at X, Y, and Z organization. We're hiring for an entry-level job. We'd love to see some Elon candidates. As an Elon alum, I want to see the organization continue to hire Elon. Can you get this in front of students? And we'll post it on the Elon Job Network, and then we'll make sure that opportunity is marketed out to students. Each one of our groups, our College of Arts and Sciences team, our Love School of Business team, our communications team, and STEM separately, they send out newsletters to students that are in those disciplines with job postings, with internship postings, with job tips and information about events that we have going on that are relevant to their disciplines, their industry areas. They're receiving those newsletters regularly to their inbox. Whether they're always reading it or not, we're not sure, but you can absolutely ask your student, hey, have you heard from the Career Center? I heard they send you a newsletter. And that newsletter will have job postings, internship postings, and career opportunities that are relevant to where you want to potentially go. Have you looked at that lately, and are you utilizing that to help kind of strategically navigate your job search? So those are going out to students, doing, like I said, everything we can to market opportunities out to students that are going to be most relevant to them. I mentioned EJN earlier, the Elon Job Network. That is our job and internship database. It's also where we post on-campus jobs. It is where students also make an appointment, find out about career events. It's kind of the one-stop shop for students to be able to find out information about what's going on in our office. We posted 42,000 opportunities on the Elon Job Network just last year. Students registered over 1,000 internships. and 88% of last year's graduating class had a minimum of one internship prior to graduation. So you'll see the numbers are really strong. What we want is students utilizing the platform. They use their regular email and password to log in. It's accessible as soon as you step foot on campus as a first-year student, and after you graduate, you can even continue to have access to Elon Job Network as an alumni. We do offer career services for a lifetime. So our alumni, whether it's utilizing EJN, which is mostly entry-level jobs, or working with our career advisor focused on alumni, once they're out in the profession a bit longer than entry level, they continue to receive services from our office. Okay, so here's going back to the student. Now we've catered those application materials. We've created a tracking system. We've learned that there's all different types of places to look for job and internship postings, but EJN's a great one. We've talked with our career advisor about what we're interested in and why. They've been maybe a resource for us as we've applied to jobs, and we've done that application plus. Application plus, one outreach to a great networking contact. You could do 5 outreaches to a great networking contact or a great alumni that are working at that organization. You're not limited to one, but I'd like to at least see one. So what happens when you get that interview? Right, so this is the next step in the process that we're coaching them on, because some of them have been through really robust interview processes with their internship, and some of them haven't. It just depends on the student and what their experience has been up until this point. So some basic guidelines from the interview, and those of you all who have interviewed, which I'm sure all of you have at some point, know yourself, right? Know your resume, know what you bring to an organization, what your accomplishments are, and what your pitch is, like why this organization now. I tell students when I used to interview for our leadership development program for a large consumer goods conglomerate, there was a lot of students who came across my desk who wanted a job, right? They were great. They were nice students. They wanted a job. There were very few students who wanted my job. Right? And knowing the employer, which is the second one here, was the difference maker. They came into the interview knowing they wanted that job with this organization, and they were able to explain to me why. And I explain to students, and we all do, the difference maker is showing that you've done the research, that it's not just any job that you're looking for, but it's that unique opportunity with that organization. That I can teach you a lot of skills and abilities, but I can't teach you to have a natural motivation and passion for my work. Right? I want to see that in the interview. And the more a student can articulate that, the more comfortable they are speaking about that, the better that interview is going to go for them. And the research makes a big difference in that. So knowing that employer is critical, because it could be the difference maker between them moving to the next round of interviews or getting the job offer. And one of the other interview tools that we want to put in front of you, just so you ask your student about it, is the STAR method. So anybody who is an interviewer, you should be familiar with this method. If you ask behavioral-based questions say, tell me about a time when you used your leadership skills. Tell me about a time when you failed or didn't follow through with something that you were supposed to do. It's asking a student to pull from a past experience and explain how they had a skill or how they engaged in a certain teamwork, problem solving, or challenging situation. So it's very helpful for students to practice their STAR method, which is really to explain these past experiences in an efficient way that gives enough detail, but not too much detail where they get off track, and fulfills the request of the interviewer. So we say, you want to talk about the situation. I was in a statistics class where we were handling a large set of data, and we were working with a group. The task was that we had to clean the data and create some visual charts and identifiers to tell the narrative of the data that we were working with and what recommendations we would make based on that data and the narrative that we were learning. The action is, my role was a leadership role, so I helped to delegate out what needed to be done and by who, and I built a timeline for our group to be able to make sure that we hit kind of the benchmarks of completing our project on time and in a way that was met the requirements of the syllabus. The result is we actually received a very good grade. We were able to present the project to the class, and the professor noted that our recommendations were really strong based on the data that we were given. So I was really happy with the result, and I feel like I did a great job as a leader walking through kind of that project with this group. So pretty simple and straightforward, but if they can give that example, it assures the employer that they have that skill set they're looking for. It shows the employer that the student has thought through what their skills are or what their natural attributes are that they'll be bringing to that job. So ask your student if they've ever practiced the STAR method. If they haven't, come in for a mock interview, and you can feel free to pass along the STAR method to them. We want them to feel comfortable speaking to their leadership skills, their communication skills, problem solving skills, time management, professionalism, conflict management, and maybe a challenging environment that they've had to handle in the past. All are potential questions that could come up, as well as other questions depending on what the job is that they're being asked to interview for. All right, so what about career advising kind of in other groups is what I want to talk about before we jump into graduate school, because we've been talking kind of on the front half of this presentation about jobs, and most around 70 to 75% of our students in any given year go into industry, and then around 20 to 25% of our students go into graduate school, which is what we're going to talk about next. But just so you know, just in case your student falls into one of these specialized services, we do offer, as I mentioned earlier, career services to alumni. We offer career services for a lifetime, and we have an advisor who focuses on alumni. So he travels to the areas where our alumni live and work, and he offers kind of in-person programming, but he also meets with alumni virtually, and he's put together a really beautiful kind of course or suite, I would say, suite of content specifically for our alumni, because some alumni are kind of 2 years out and some of our alumni are decades out of school. And so they all have different and unique needs. And so making sure we're meeting those needs is something that he is fantastic at. We're going to talk in a minute about students pursuing graduate school and students specifically in pre-health. So that's pre-medical, dental, and other health professions, and what that looks like. We do have a career advisor who sits over in global that supports our international students who might be looking to go back home with their jobs or looking to stay domestic with their jobs, and the challenges or hurdles that they might be navigating with visas, OPT and CPT. We have a career advisor who focuses on our teacher candidates and a career event specifically for teacher interviews, and a career advisor who works with student athletes. So, and as I mentioned before, we have two spokes or satellite offices in our School of Communications and School of Business, where we have career advisors and corporate and employer relations professionals that work in those schools. We also offer courses called CAE courses. So if you think your student, let's say they're not a graduating senior, they're a junior, and they could use a little more guidance on life after Elon or the job search process. The CAE course is a 1-credit elective course that they can take that provides them with that structured environment to kind of follow a job search or to learn more about how they can make sure they're marketable. So that's always an option as well. And then we have a C2C program, which is College to Career. And that program supports students that are actively engaged in professional development and rewards them for that engagement. So they receive some awards, rewards for certain benchmarks that they hit in regards to their professional development, so that they are incentivized to continue with that professional development. We know it's good for them. Oftentimes you as family members know it's great for them, but students have a lot of different priorities when they're on campus. And so anything we can do to get them kind of on track with their professional development is a win for everybody involved. So graduate school programs, we have 2 different career advisors who focus on our students going into graduate school. One supports all of our students going into graduate school and law school who are not pre-health. And then we have a graduate school advisor who is pre-health focused because of the unique application requirements and cycle and process that the pre-health, which includes pre-med, pre-dental, PT, PA, OPT, or DPT, just those processes are a little bit different. So for the students going into graduate school, law and other graduate schools, and really all students, these would be great programs. I put some dates and quick descriptions here for you. but they're focused on working with students throughout the graduate school admissions process. Some schools have very strict timelines of when those applications need to come in. Some of them have rolling deadlines. Some of them have graduate apprenticeships, others don't. So helping the students, similar to the job search, to really get strategic with their applications. Why am I applying to these programs at these schools? What's the motivation and what's the story that I want to tell about why I'm motivated? All right, right before this session, I ran into a student who I've been working with since she was a first year, who just finished her essays for 2 graduate programs and sent them over to me last week. And I had a chance to look at the essays. They looked great and her applications are in, but those are different than the applications that she put in the fall, because every graduate school is a little bit different in what their application needs and what their timeline is. So the more that they're working with our team, the more they can stay informed on these types of graduate school kind of nuances of the application process. So these are programs that we're doing, but students are always welcome to come in for those one-on-one appointments to say, I want to be in this type of graduate program, pre-medical, law school, political science, counseling, psychology, and here's the schools that I'm looking at. How do I put my best foot forward in my application and make sure that I have everything I need to be a marketable candidate for those programs? So take a picture of this one if it's helpful to you, if you do have a student that's looking at graduate school or is currently in the admissions application process for graduate school. All right. And let's say that you have a student that maybe just hasn't been in. It hasn't been kind of on their radar. They've got a lot of other things going on at Elon, and you want to encourage them to just drop it. You want to make it as easy as possible for them to get into our door. One, they can always make an appointment through the Elon Job Network. That's quick and easy. And like I said, they just log in with a regular username and ID, and then they click on make an appointment button, and they can make an appointment that works with their schedule. But maybe that's a heavy lift and they're not quite ready to make an appointment. We do host drop-in hours Monday through Thursday. And as you'll see there, pretty much from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m., they can find one of our offices that are open for drop-ins. So, right. So this is a quick and easy. I just want to get started. How do I get started? Or I need somebody to look at my resume before I turn it in for this application. Or I just found out I have an interview. I'm so excited about it. And it's this afternoon. You'd be surprised by how many students come in the morning and they say, I have an interview this afternoon. I need some help preparing, right? We'd rather see you than not see you. So drop in, ask us that quick question. If it's more than a drop in, we'll make an appointment while the student comes in to make sure that they're getting those needs met and that their questions are answered in a larger, longer appointment that's dedicated to them during that time. We also have LinkedIn pictures that we offer throughout the day, every day, so they can come in or they can schedule an appointment for a LinkedIn picture as well. Really want to make sure that they're coming in and realizing they don't have to have it figured out before they come in our door, but that we're here to help them figure it out, because this is a newer process for most of them. And if they did this process with an internship, it doesn't mean it's exactly the same for their job search. All right, so what does this look like as far as outcomes are concerned? We survey our class at graduation, 3 months post-graduation and 9 months post-graduation. So you'll see here, we're getting ready to survey in just next week, our class of 2024, 9 months post-graduation. So once I have that data, we'll flip this slide to our class of 2024. But our class of 2023, 9 months post-graduation, 84% of them were in a full-time employment or opportunity. 14% of them were in graduate school. Students can say that they are both in graduate school and in full-time employment, because some will be in a full-time job and pursuing graduate school part-time. It is not exclusively one or the other for some of our students. Overall, 96% of them are employed, attending graduate school, in a fellowship, or working for a service organization. 96% of them are kind of where they are, I would say, on their next step. But a really important question that we ask that means a lot to us is not just, are you employed or are you in graduate school, but is this opportunity aligned with your career goals? Because we talked early about that foundation setting. What are your career goals, right? And what do those goals entail? I want to live in New York and work in finance and be able to, support myself. Or I want to move to Houston and work for a PR firm, or I want to work for a service organization in Chicago. What are those goals that you have? Some are really specific and some are more broad. But what we ask is the position that you're in related to your career goals? And 95% of the students said, yes, where I'm at is where I want to be in alignment with my career goals. Because there's a difference between a job and a job that's going to set them up for future success. And we know that there's a difference. We've all been in jobs in our respective fields that were great, but maybe not setting us up for the future. And we want our students not only in a great opportunity, a great graduate school or a great job, but what's going to set them up for the future that they see themselves in or that they'd like to explore further. So here's a kind of a sampling of what those next moves have looked like for our students in the past. I couldn't put all of the graduate schools up there because you saw it was 14%. So that would be a really busy slide and hard to look at. And here's a sample of some of the organizations. Our students are really going to a wide range of organizations. They have varied interests and goals. Some want really small kind of startup industries, some want nonprofit, some want for-profit, big city, small city. It runs the gamut. It's really about the student and the individual and what's the right opportunity for them. All right, I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen so that I can answer your questions that might come in. It looks like I've got quite 8 questions here, so I'll answer those. For interview skills, I mentioned earlier, mock interviews. We also have a tool called Big Interview that I didn't put in this slide, but I could have and should have. I mentioned there's pre-recorded interviews. They're oftentimes through a platform called HireVue, which is what the organizations use. And we have a tool called Big Interview, which essentially simulates the same type of pre-recorded interview where a student can practice talking to a screen with a set of interview questions and practice that pre-recorded interview process, and even send the pre-recorded interview that they practiced to themselves or a career advisor to get feedback. The AI system also gives them feedback saying, you know, you could have added more content to your answers, or you didn't have great eye contact during the conversation. Pay more attention to the camera and look up a bit more. So there's both mock interview practice, which is going to be in person in an appointment or on Zoom in an appointment. And there's also the pre-recorded interview practice as well. Are there career advisors specific to particular disciplines? Yes. So our career advisors work within schools. So we have career advisors that support the School of Business, School of Communication, and the College of Arts and Sciences, and the School of Education, and the School of Health Sciences. So those disciplines align with the schools. But if a student comes into any one of our offices and finds us there, that career advisor can meet with them as a generalist and then refer them to the correct career advisor for their area or discipline. So I don't want a student to ever come into a career office and be like, oh, we can't help you. We don't help your major. It's yes, let's have a conversation today just to get some foundational understanding of what your needs are. But then I'm going to make sure you're meeting with kind of more discipline specific career advisor going forward. So you get that insider information and the best strategic advice. If somebody's graduating mid-year, we actually get a list from the registrar's office of our December graduates and our August graduates. And that way we know those that are graduating. What's interesting about our December graduates is it tends to be a market where employers are oftentimes really looking for graduates. And so we put opportunities in front of them saying, these employers are looking to hire in January and February. We want to go ahead and tell you now as a December graduate and get your kind of interest in those employers. It tends to be not as competitive of a field because there's just across the country not as many students graduating mid-year. So it's a really nice market for our students to graduate into oftentimes. And we try to make sure that we're putting those opportunities in front of those students who intend to graduate mid-year. I asked about AI, and we'll go back to that in just a minute. How many students does each career advisor work with? It depends on the career advisor, right? Our career advisors in the School of Business and School of Communications tend to be a bit busier because of the kind of professional focus of those schools. And the College of Arts and Sciences, it depends on the disciplines that they're supporting. And then our graduate school advisors, those appointments are longer, right? They're sitting down looking over a personal statement or an essay. And so some appointments with career advisors are like 20, 30 minutes, let's look at a resume, get it shined up. And others are more in depth where we're really doing career exploration or graduate school application. So it depends on the career advisor, the school they support, and the types of appointments that they have. First step for a senior to get started is really make an appointment on the Elon Job Network. And the appointment can be for a job search, or if they just want to get started with a resume. If they've never been in our doors, that's absolutely okay. We want to see them before they graduate. We also offer services after they graduate, but just ask them to make an appointment or come for drop-ins. Once they make an appointment, we can kind of get an idea of where they're at and how we can best support them kind of in those first steps and moving forward in the application process. Can students as alumni take graduate school programs after they graduate? At Elon, they can take graduate school programs. so absolutely they can. They'd work with admissions on that. So they also are offered opportunities through Elon Next as alumni, which is our continuing education platform as well. So those are great ways that students can look at graduate schools at Elon or continue education through Elon Next. We also, as I mentioned before, support alumni. So if a student graduates, works for 3 years, and then decide they want to apply to graduate school, like fully into graduate school, we'll support them with that application process as well. The percentage of graduates that we have outcome information on is usually around 70 to 80%. By the time we reach 9 months, we're in the 80s. We're in the mid 80s. So some of them are apply, and some of them we acquire information through LinkedIn. So we kind of have a knowledge rate and a response rate. So our knowledge rate includes the data from LinkedIn that we're able to pull as well. I answered the graduate school question. When should students apply for jobs? This is very different dependent on industry, right? So we know that finance and accounting hire early, and let's use entertainment for an example, does more on-time hiring. So it really depends on the industry that your student wants to go into. And that's where these discipline-specific career advisors can speak to the student about which industries they're looking at and what their application timeline should look at, right? If a student knows that they're moving out to LA, then they're most likely going to apply right before they move or start their application as they move, because it is very much an on-time hiring city if it's going to be in the entertainment industry. Not always, but oftentimes that way. So we like to guide students specific to their industries and locations of interest so that they can put themselves in the best position possible to not apply too early where they wouldn't be eligible, but not apply too late where they're waiting for a job during a time when they could be working. It's never too late to inquire about internship opportunities. We always see internships pop up. Like I was just in New York last week. We were specifically talking about internships during our time. And a lot of those employers were getting ready to hire their interns or had just started their interview process. So we're going to go back to AI. Right. So how are we using AI in this process? Our office is very AI friendly, and we think AI is a fantastic tool that students can use to assist them in tailoring and customizing their materials, but not write things for them. So just like any tool, it's how do I use it in a way that's going to benefit my time, but not misspeak to who I am, right, as a candidate, as an applicant. Yeah, there's a question like, because their cover letters were all the same. And if you can read through the lines when something's been written by AI. So AI is a tool. It is not an end product. And that's really what we're coaching students through. We're actually part of our office is part of an AI pilot. We're helping students teach and educate students on how to best utilize AI in the job search process. Research on companies is a great way to utilize AI, but you don't take everything as correct, because we know that AI can give you incorrect information. So you want to follow up on that research and make sure all of it's correct and that you quote something that's directly from the company website, not something that you learned from AI. So really AI integration is as a process that all of our faculty are working on, helping students utilize the tool smartly. And we're especially focusing on ways that students can use the tool in the application process to make it faster and efficient while not hurting their candidacy and the customization of who they are as a candidate in the application process. Because you don't want a bunch of resumes that look exactly the same or cover letters that look exactly the same. I always say to students, you want to be a unique identifier. What is it about you that makes you unique? And making sure that you're speaking to that in your cover letter, your resume, and in the interview. Because what I'm going to remember is not only the qualified candidates, but the qualified candidates who had something unique about them that made them stand out. And maybe it was relevant to my organization, because that's going to be, once again, a difference maker when I know not only why you're interested in this organization, but what uniquely would you bring to this opportunity that maybe other candidates wouldn't. And that needs to be communicated, and AI can't figure that out for you. So that's kind of the big piece on AI is it's a tool. It is not a matter of fact or an end product. And it's teaching students how to use it smartly and in a way that they're not depending on it for their applications, but using it as a part of the cycle to help speed up their application process, but still customizing their resumes and their applications in a way that's unique and individual to them. All right. And then I had somebody raise your hand. Internships available during January term or following graduation prior to grad school. There's year service opportunities following graduation. And there's also postgraduate internships. It depends on the organization or the industry. Some industries are really common with postgraduate internships. I just call it a 3-month interview, really, at that point, because they're maybe looking at them for a full-time opportunity, but they're kind of bringing them in a postgraduate internship for them to test the waters and for the organization to test the waters. And then January term, it is oftentimes maybe smaller organizations or more local organizations that might have a January term opportunity, because it's not common for a large organization to host students for 3 weeks in January. They're going to host them for semester-long internships or summer-long internships. So if they're looking for a January opportunity, it's going to look a little bit different. And so they need to talk to their career advisor, and we can look and see who's done January internships in the past and maybe help the student reach out to those organizations. I think that I answered all the questions. Anybody else, please raise your hand so I can answer any direct questions. All right, let's see if I can get this here. Got you. Tracy. Hi, Tracy. I can't hear you.
Yes, I was curious, when are career advisors assigned or chosen?
Oh, wait, our career advisors, they're not necessarily assigned like academic advisors are. I'm glad you asked that question. So a student doesn't get an assignment where they say this person is your career advisor, because students' majors change throughout their time at Elon and their career interests change throughout their time at Elon. So most students will find the career advisor that's in their school, if they're in the School of Communications or School of Business, or they'll come into our main office or make an appointment. And they'll get to see at each, when they make an appointment, I'm just gonna give an example. If they're making an appointment for a resume review, they'll say, here's the times I'm available. I want to make an appointment this Monday through Friday, anytime between 10 to 2. And then it'll show up who's available from an advisor standpoint. And there's a little information box near those advisors saying what they work on and what they work with. So for a resume is not the best example, because all of our advisors can work on a resume, but maybe the student has a specific industry of interest or discipline of interest. And so that information box will tell a student a bit more about what those advisors work with. But don't worry, once they get in, we'll make sure they're aligned with the right advisor. They don't, quote unquote, get assigned an advisor. A lot of our advisors can work with all of our students, but if there's a specific advisor that's going to best help that student, we're going to make sure that they're pointed in that direction. And if there's a question, just have them come into our front desk, and our student ambassadors will be able to help guide them on who they're best to meet with, depending on what they're interested in.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions that I can answer? Please raise your hand or drop them into the box. Oh, tips for getting your daughter to reach out or student to reach out. We call it there's a lot of students that kind of have paralysis or fear when it comes to the job and internship application process. It is oftentimes, I'm trying to think about the best way to get them in the door. Oftentimes, if we've come and spoken with one of their classes, that will get them in, because they realize we're friendly people who want to help. But really just ask them to come in for a drop-in, right? If they're timid about coming in for a drop-in is an easy way, low stakes, low time commitment. They can ask an initial question such as, I haven't got started on my job search. Can you help me make an appointment? It could be as simple as that, right? And we can help them make an appointment in that initial conversation. Because once we get them in, they tend to come back, right? We look at our data to say, if a student comes in, are they likely to come back? And our statistics are really high that students who come in come back because their needs are being met, and they're seeing that we're not an intimidating office or a scary office. So for those parents who are kind of looking to help push the student in the door, just say, go in for a drop-in, make sure that you see career services this week. It doesn't have to be a full-blown appointment, but could it be a drop-in and an easy way to see us and get your foot in the door. So, and then local quality internships. I'm really glad you asked about that. We actually have a program called Campus Alamance, where we support 50 local internships, and we make sure those students are stipended. So they're local businesses, nonprofits, and government entities that those students are cohorted in the experience. They each have an internship that's local, and they're stipended for those internships. The university pays for those stipends so that some of our local providers may not be able to support an intern on their own. And it helps students who need to stay local have that local opportunity with an internship that we know is going to be a really good and valuable experience for them. We set high expectations of the employers and of the students, and they actually have professional development opportunities every Tuesday night that they engage with as a part of the cohort in those internships. So we have obviously a lot of different ways, but that's just one way that we support quality internships that are locally and work closely with our local internship providers. All right, we are at 12:52. When's the next career fair and how do we host them at Elon? We actually just hosted one last week. That was a large campus-wide career fair. And next week, we have our sport management and communications and sport management fair. This week, we have our on-campus student employment fair. So all of that information is on the Elon Job Network. Last week was the campus-wide career fair. This week, it's the on-campus student employment fair for students that are looking for jobs on campus. And next week is what we call a boutique fair. So it's industry specific for our communications and sport management students. As we move into later in the spring, we'll host our teacher interview day. And so we schedule our fairs aligned with the industry timing of what their hiring needs are. So you'll see our business fair will be in the fall, and our STEM fair in the fall, and then we host fairs throughout the academic semester in the timeline that best serves those industries and those students. But they can find out about all of our events and our fairs by stopping by our office. It's on our website and on the Elon Job Network. All right. And anybody can go to any one of our fairs. I'm glad you asked that. She did campus elements last year. We had a campus elements student last year. I'm glad it worked out well. And comm minors can go to the communications fair. Students that are just interested in sports can go to the communications and sport management fair. All students are open and welcome to attend all fairs. It's not limited to majors. It's really industries of interest and disciplines of interest. They don't have to be that major, but if they know that they want to go into those areas of work, we want them to come to those fairs and meet those employers and alumni and build their networks. All right, we are 5 minutes before time. So I thank you all for joining. If there's other questions that I can answer you individually or specifically, please feel free to hang on. This is recorded. So I think we'll share it out with parents who weren't able to attend. But thank you for being interested in the Student Professional Development Center and for advocating for your students to utilize our services, because really our goal is the same. We want to find our students success post-graduation. It's why we do the work that we do every single day, is because we love it when these young people come in and say, I got the job or I got into the graduate school. I actually got 2 emails today where our graduate school career advisor forwarded me an email from a student who said, I got in, right? And that's why we do what we do every single day, is because we love to help these students find success. So thank you. Feel free to stay on if you have a specific question that you want to ask, and just raise your hand so I can unmute you. Oh, yeah. It's raised hands here. All right. All right. I think I've got Care Stevens.
Yes. Hey.
Yeah.
Thanks for this today. This was so helpful.
Oh, good.
Yes. And then I have a quick question, and I think I just missed what you said about the graduate school programs. You had 3 dates listed for March 4th, March 13th, April 3rd. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, those are workshops. Those are workshops that, but if your student is applying to graduate school, what type of program are they applying for, or thinking about applying for?
She's a little undecided, but she wants to something around art history.
Okay.
But so she's a little undecided, but that's probably where she's going to look.
Yeah, so those are workshops that I put up and they are posted. There's literally an easel right outside of our door in the Mosley Center that has those workshops posted, and it can be found on our Elon Job Network. But that student can meet with Collier, Collier, which is our graduate school advisor, that's non-pre-medical. And Collier can sit down with your student and kind of inquire a bit more about what types of programs they're thinking about and what they need to do to get started with the application process.
So that workshop is being held where?
The workshops, the graduate school workshops, those are here. All those graduate school workshops are here in the Student Professional Development Center.
In the Mosley Center?
Yes, in the Mosley Center.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and they're on the Elon Job Network.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked.
Okay.
All right, Amy. Let me get you here. Hello. Are you there, Amy?
Sorry, I
Yeah,
thought you
no problem.
me, but I unmuted myself. Okay, I just wanted to thank you so much. This has been so informative.
Oh, good.
It's just it's so impressive, all the stuff, all the places that you guys have your fingers going for these kids, and especially how it's okay to come in totally unprepared. I think that's half the battle. And I'm texting my son while this is all going on, and he's like, I'm definitely going in. And I'm thinking, oh my God, thank God. Because I know, and I said to him, I'm like, I can't advise you. These people know exactly, what the trends are, what to look for, how to navigate things. So you've lowered my stress, and I just wanted to let you guys know you're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I hope he comes in. Like we are all in this because we love it, right? And so we want to help them find success and navigate a process that might feel very scary and intimidating, and kind of demystifying that is a big part of the process.
Yeah. Thank you again. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. I've got Robin. I think you had a question.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. First of all, what was the name of the program of internships with Alamance County?
Oh, Campus Alamance.
Campus Alamance. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so my daughter is away on her study abroad. She's a junior. So I'm going to fill her in on everything here. I'm sure she's already been into you before. But I wanted to ask specifically about my incoming Elon student who's going to be coming next year.
Great.
Because I remember when I was a freshman, the Career Center at my university turned me away saying, oh, you don't have to worry about an internship now. You're just a freshman. Come back senior year. And by then it was like almost too late. So what would you recommend? I know this is off topic, but what would you recommend a freshman do?
So the freshmen are going to see us in their Elon 1010 class. We do not turn freshmen away. We actually want to see first years in the SBDC. So we actually work with the Elon 1010 instructors and get around 90% of the Elon 1010 classes in here. So that students see, one, we're not intimidating. Two, we want you to come in. Three, here's where you can get started. So first years, I say, let's change that high school resume, which tends to be a list of a lot of things, into a college resume. It's an easy first place to start, right? Okay. It's not going to be your final college resume, but we're getting that kind of structure in place so that you feel like you have a professional resume and that you're going to build on while you're here. Okay. And if they're kind of major undecided, can we be a resource for them as they explore what major options might be in front of them? Those are kind of two key first year types of kind of professional benchmarks that we'd love to see them build that first resume. And if they're major undecided, determine what that means and how they might explore opportunities. If they're major decided, they know like what are some first steps they can take to go ahead and start kind of aligning themselves with that disciplinary study. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much for this. It really helps me know what to ask my children about, you know, rather than just like, how's it going? You know.
I understand. And we do work with students while they're abroad. So we do Zoom appointments with students while they're abroad as well. So
okay, great.
Whether it's your current student or your incoming student, if they're abroad and they need help, they can make an appointment with us.
Okay. Thank you. I'll let her know. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. And then I think it's Eileen.
Hi. Yes, I just have a quick question, and thank you again. This has been incredibly helpful, and there's so many great resources. We're really excited, honored to access these. So my question is, we always say that sometimes it's easier to find a job while you have a job. Is
Yep.
that still kind of the advice? And I mean, at least a part-time job while you're looking. What are your thoughts on that, and what do you see with different organizations?
I think that's still the truth with professionals. So people who are already out of school, I always like when I talk to our alumni who say, you know what, I've been in my first job for a year and a half. I'm ready for something new, Brooke. I'll say, don't quit before you find the next job, right? Because I don't want you to have a gap because you don't know how long that gap would be or how that gap might be read. Sometimes it isn't something that they can navigate, and sometimes it is. But if they can, I say to a professional that's already in industry, please retain your job while you're looking for another job, because you just don't want to have a gap if you don't need to. For current students, it's not going to be as much of the case, right? Because they just know, everybody who's hiring for entry level knows that the priority of the student right now is their education. Right. And if they've been able to get an internship, fantastic. But really what their priority has been is working. Now, if they want to show some work experience on that resume through part-time jobs, because they've had the time to do that, that's fantastic. But they don't have to have that part-time job to be more eligible for the full-time job, like somebody who's already in the workforce would be. It's really about how have they built relevancy on their resume, because it may not be through a part-time job. It might be through being a leader in these student organizations that are really relevant to where I want to go, that are going to be kind of even more important for the application than it is that part-time job. So it's how do we make sure they're involving themselves in engagement opportunities on enough campus that are going to be most relevant to where they want to go in the future. And some of those are jobs and some of those are service or leadership or research.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's all for the questions. If any other questions before we hop off, feel free to raise your hand or drop them in the chat or in the Q&A. Oh, this is great. I'm glad it was helpful, and it was such a joy to talk to you all today. So I'm going to drop off now. I hope you have a fantastic afternoon.